The Sunday school lesson for October the 1st, 2023 is God confirms Gideon's mission. Judges chapter 7, verses 2 through 4, verses 13 through 15, and chapter 8, verses 22 through 25. To the viewers and subscribers, welcome to my channel, The Backstory. I am Audrey. If you are new here, notice the agenda, the backstory, lesson text, and summary. Some of you have shared my videos, and for those of you who have done so, thank you so much for doing so. Help me continue to grow my channel, one viewer and one subscriber at a time. Judges chapter 6 consists of a great deal of information about Gideon. Gideon served as the fifth major judge over Israel. Judges chapter 7, verse 1 answers several questions. Early in the morning, Jerubbaal, that is Gideon, and all his men camped at the spring of Harod. Notice the location of Harod on the map. The camp of Midian was north of them, in the valley near the hill of Moreh. Gideon and all his men were there to wage war against the Midianites. The Sunday school lesson begins at this point. Verse 2, And the Lord said unto Gideon, The people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, Mine own hand hath saved me. Verse 3, Now therefore go to, proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, Whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there returned of the people 22,000, and there remained 10,000. Verse 4, And the Lord said unto Gideon, The people are yet too many. Bring them down unto the water, and I will try them for thee there. And it shall be, that of whom I say unto thee, This shall go with thee, the same shall go with thee. And of whomsoever I say unto thee, This shall not go with thee, the same shall not go. Verse 13, And when Gideon was come, behold, there was a man that told a dream unto his fellow, and said, Behold, I dreamed a dream, and lo, a cake of barley bread tumbled into the host of Midian, and came unto a tent, and smote it, that it fell, and overturned it, that the tent lay along. Verse 14, And his fellow answered and said, This is nothing else, save the sword of Gideon, the son of Joash, a man of Israel. For into his hand hath God delivered Midian and all the host. Verse 15, And it was so, when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof, that he worshipped and returned into the host of Israel, and said, Arise, for the Lord hath delivered into your hand the host of Midian. Judges chapter 8, verse 22. Then the men of Israel said unto Gideon, Rule thou over us, both thou and thy son, and thy son's son also, for thou hast delivered us from the hand of Midian. Verse 23, And Gideon said unto them, I will not rule over you, neither shall my son rule over you. The Lord shall rule over you. Verse 24, And Gideon said unto them, I would desire a request of you, that ye would give me every man the earrings of his prey, for they had golden earrings, because they were Ishmaelites. Verse 25, and they answered, we will willingly give them. And they spread a garment, and did cast therein every man the earrings of his prey. A brief summary. Gideon and his men made their camp on an elevated area where the spring of Harod provided ample water at the northern foot of Mount Gilboa. An army of 32,000 assembled in answer to Gideon's call, but the Lord told Gideon that the army was too big. The battle must be won by a force so small that everyone would know without question that God had given the victory. Mosaic law specified that the faint-hearted could be exempt from warfare. Deuteronomy chapter 20, verse 8. Therefore, God commanded that anyone who trembles with fear may turn back. God further reduced the size of the fighting force by having the men go down for a drink. God chose to keep 300 men who drank with cupped hands. Simple actions often reveal character. Perhaps the 300 showed themselves more alert, more cautious, or less given to excess. At any rate, God said that by these 300 men of character, he would save Israel. The others surrendered their gear and went home. Meanwhile, the Midianites had seen 32,000 men gather on the hill above them. Then they had seen most of those Israelites go away. They must have wondered where they were going and why. As the number of men on the hill shrank, the thousands of Midianites felt more uneasy rather than more secure. This was confirmed when God told Gideon to take his servants and go down to the Midianite camp. This they did, and they overheard one man telling another of a dream of a loaf of barley bread tumbling into the Midianite camp and overturning a tent. The second man interpreted the dream as a prophecy of Gideon's victory over the Midianites. Gideon's response was humble worship. He was finally convinced that God would give him the victory. He returned to his camp emboldened to act as the leader he was called by God to be. This must have given his 300 men confidence as well. Now I'll move to chapter 8, verses 22 through 25. Leading Israelites probably had talked this among themselves before they approached Gideon. They admired the way he had led them with firmness and power, with courage and with generosity. They were glad that the huge army of invaders had been decisively defeated and 7 years of oppression had ended. The grateful men of Israel were ready to make him their king and to pledge their obedience to his descendants. With unusual insight, Gideon recognized the proper nature of the nation. It ought to obey God. When it did that, it had no need of any other king. It was disobedience that had brought on the oppression that Gideon's campaign had ended. Without being king, however, Gideon was a dominant influence for 40 years, and only after his death did the people again go back to the worship of idols. Although Gideon refused to be a king, the record gives two indications that the abuses of kingship began to creep in during those 40 years when he was prominent. Thank you so much for watching. Join me soon for the next backstory. Stay safe and may God bless.